Kyle. I'm bringing us back with some Simon and Garfunkel. This is Perry Smith with your City of Santa Clarita Spotlight Hour, and I'm here in the studio with Robert Newman, our city's Director of Public Works, who is working on a litany of public improvement projects for our city. One of the things we were just talking about was the Golden Valley Bridge widening and the McBean Bridge widening. And that's a combination of things. You're adding a little road and you're kind of making the most of what you got, right?
Correct. And if people are familiar and drive that area, you see in the morning you'll see congestion, or in the afternoon you'll see congestion. So in the case of Golden Valley, we're adding actually 4 additional lanes and a Class 1 bike trail, so a separated bike trail. So expanding our network of bike trails that everybody sees out here and really likes, because you get it out of the street and really accommodates the families and gives you opportunity. That will go to construction probably late this year. We're working on a few details with Caltrans as to kind of scope. It's in their right away, so we got to go get their approval. That's been a challenge, but we're making progress on that.
Okay. And then one of the things I was looking at when you were talking about the toll lanes on the I-5, they have traffic. I only bring that up because in respect to how it improves the situation, they have traffic grades. Do you, like adding per lane, does that make a certain amount of difference? You guys study that too, right?
Yeah, I think what you're referring to is level of service.
Right.
They'll go from level of service A to F, and
right.
F being worse. Everybody kind of understands that. And,
sure.
And we try to, we've got guidelines and targets for what we try to accommodate in C and D. Obviously you can't get a level of service A for peak hour traffic, but you try to accommodate so there's minimal delay. We wouldn't want to overbuild for that peak hour, but we try to balance that and trying to find a happy medium so that you're not wasting taxpayer money.
Right, and so it's kind of just a constant, like you were saying, a balancing act. You just look at all the different factors and what's the best service we can provide.
Yeah, and if you, like we talked earlier, is the level of service and the amount of traffic on a particular roadway really varies during the week. Probably people don't recognize or realize that, but it really does change Monday through Friday. And it's really a balancing and trying to provide different timing scenarios for the particular traffic patterns that we see, and then adjusting it, because we kind of naturally have growth out here. Even if you didn't build another house, people have kids and kids start driving, so you start to see that change. And
you don't want too many empty lanes, but you don't want, like you said, bottlenecks or whatever.
Correct. Yeah. So it's finding that happy balance, and that's a struggle sometimes, and fortunately or unfortunately, we're able to get a lot of grant money kind of from the outside the community that the residents don't pay as directly to the city. But in a lot of cases, to get that grant funding, you have to show a demonstrated need, which is kind of some congestion. So in some ways, you play a little bit of catch up, and in some ways, we try to stay ahead of that so we anticipate it.
And one of the things we had talked about, a different project, is at 5th Street and Newhall Avenue. You were just kind of explaining to me during the break the difference between, the roundabout that everybody knows about. Maybe you've seen it in Hasley.
Hasley I-5, correct.
Right off of there. That's going to be a completely different thing than what we're talking about building for the city at 5th Street and Newhall Avenue, right?
Correct. Yeah, down at the end of Main Street in Newhall, and we've done quite a bit of outreach here over the last couple of years in planning for this project. The one at Hasley I-5 is a multi-lane configuration, and somewhat confusing to people that do not use it on a regular basis.
Sure, we've heard some of that concern.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard a lot of that. Is once they start to use it, they understand it. But the one we're building at Main and Newhall, they're at 5th, and we should start construction here right after the 4th of July. We're waiting on the parade, so that doesn't have an impact.
Oh, okay.
Is a single lane and very directional traffic. If you go through that intersection frequently, you understand that most people are coming up Newhall Avenue and making kind of a left onto Newhall to go towards Lyons, or coming down Newhall heading towards the freeway.
Sure.
So there's very little conflict, but those left turners usually have to wait for the right traffic signal. And with the roundabout, which is single lane, gives us a great centerpiece kind of for the end of Main Street, all the work we've done down there. We're really helping the traffic flow. So we'll be able to take the signal out, reduce the savings, and really add to kind of the traffic pattern down there and actually facilitate moving traffic more.
And putting a little unique City of Santa Clarita twist on it, there's going to be a public art component, right?
We did add a public art component. We're still working through what that will be with the Arts Commission and the city's art.
So you guys are taking submissions or ideas, or what stage is that at?
I think they've awarded they went through submission process. I'm not exactly sure where they stand currently. I know they had gone through a submission process from local artists.
Okay, and another. Speaking of, with we're on the guru of public works here. Let's talk about the roadways and the Safe Routes to School program. That's something that the city has recently started working on to just kind of provide more avenues for safer paths to schools.
Yeah, if you look at the suggested route to schools that we use, and really it's for the elementary schools.
Right.
You know, if you have a elementary school child and you've ever been there to drop them off, you know that the impact during that morning peak or in the afternoon peak is pretty substantial. So
Right.
we're trying to facilitate the walking and biking to school. So we're really on phase 8. We're actually going to go to construction on what we're calling phase 8 of Safe Routes to School. Is grant funding through the state and the federal government, so we're able to bring probably over $2 million of improvements into the Santa Clarita Valley for the benefit of kind of everybody that's walking and pedestrians. And we're implementing projects as bulb outs. They're minor, but they're school signage and striping and bulb outs, which facilitate pedestrian.
When you say
safety.
bulb outs, I'm sorry.
It's kind of a curb return. You bulb it out into the street, so the crossing width for the student or the individual crossing the pedestrian crossing the street doesn't end up being in the street as long.
So
it
we're
shortens.
trying to make it a little more pedestrian friendly.
Yeah, a lot more pedestrian friendly.
And the idea being, I would imagine, to encourage lesser. When you have that 6 blocks to go to school, then your child is walking that distance as opposed to you're going to drive them off. And just that little bit of congestion can make a big difference, I'd imagine, right?
Yeah. One of the things that we see a lot is, our majors and what people drive most of the time are fairly high speed, 45, 50 miles an hour, and then they get into the residential area and we're trying to slow traffic down and calm it. These bulb outs both have an impact for pedestrians and a shorter crossing, and they tend to slow cars down within our residential areas.
So it's about safety and congestion.
Correct.
Okay, and we'll have a one more segment to come back and talk about some of the capital improvement projects that are happening throughout the city. We'll be right back after this break. This is the City of Santa Clarita Spotlight Show with your host, Perry Smith, and I'm here in the studio with Robert Newman, the Director of Public Works, on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.